Hello everyone, I'm Ben, and in this video we're going to be making a Halloween pumpkin in Houdini 18.5. Let's jump into it. Alright, so here I am at my viewport, and the first thing I want to do is I want to use Photogrammetry in Houdini to actually take a number of photographs and convert them into a 3D model. So over here in my object view, I'm going to press Tab, and I'm going to create a Geo node by typing the word Geo, and then double click to jump inside, and what I'd like to do is create a AV Labs photogrammetry. So I'm just going to start typing photo, and you can see that the Labs AV photogrammetry pops up. I'll drop that down, and with that in place, all I need to do is then go ahead and choose the images that I want to use. Alright, so here it is, and you can see right now, you won't have this, it's just a cache that's coming up, so pretend that's not there. And all you need to do is come over here to the Add Images, choose Add Images, select your images. Okay, so I've specified a project name, cache directory, and I've loaded up the images. And the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and say cook, and be back when this is done. Okay, and so this is what I got. You can see I've got a pumpkin, but it's in a kind of unusable form because of the angle that it's at. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, well, I want to get this back to be closer to the origin. You can see that the origin's over here. So I'm going to tab, and I'm going to press type align, and we've got this handy lab axis align. Drop that down, connect this in, and move the display flag, and you can see that this has jumped right over to our origin. And I'm just going to justify this Y at the center so that the pumpkin is sitting more near the actual center of the world. Alright, that's good. Next thing I want to do is just a little transform to get this back to be oriented the way I like. Alright, so with that I'm just going to choose Tab and type Transform. And this will give me some manual control. So I'll connect this up, move the display flag, and I know roughly the values that this needs to be transformed, I think. So translate, it needs to come up about 0.1 and rotated 72 on the X and -2 on the Z. Alright, and that should be fairly flat. So with that done, the next thing I want to do is to slice off a lot of this ground here. So I'm just going to go ahead and press Tab and type Box. And that'll let me bring up this Labs Box Clip node, which is a great way to go ahead and create basically a bounding box and clip everything outside of it. So if I turn that on, move the display flag down, we'll see that it doesn't quite do too much because the bottom of the box is too far below this plane. So I need to move this whole box up. And so what I'm going to do is change the center of this box clip from 0 to 0.52 and see how that looks. Yeah, that looks good. Except for this little mound that I've got here. And what I can do is create a delete small parts here. So delete. And we've got the Labs delete small parts. Bring that in. Connect that up, move the display flag down, and if everything goes to plan, that will drop out nicely. Great. So there we go, we have a basic pumpkin, and now it's a matter of saying, well, what do we want to do to it? Well, one of the things I like to do is to, first of all, close up this hole. And so we can do something like a polygon fill, press Tab, polyfill. And when we go ahead and do that, connect that up, and move the display flag down, we can see that it's filled it in, but this geometry here is pretty rough to say the least. So that's not ideal. So what we can do is just go ahead and run it through a VDB. So we're going to VDB from polygons, drop that down, move the display flag, and we get a somewhat of a cloud look first off. So let's go ahead and drop the voxel size. So let's see, 0.01. That's getting smoother. I'm going to drop that down to 0.005. No, I think I'll need to go 0.001. That's looking quite serviceable. Okay, great. So that's done. Now I want to get it back to polygons. So I'm going to say VDB convert. Convert VDB, yes please. Now I'll connect that one up. Move the display flag down. And with that node selected, I'm going to convert to a group of polygons. Excellent. So if we zoom in and I press Shift W, we can see I've got quite a lot of polygons. So I'm going to press Shift W, zoom back out, And what I'd like to do is a poly reduce. So I'm going to press tab, type poly reduce, and drop that down. And I'll connect that one up. And on the poly reduce, I'm going to set my percentage to keep at 20%. And then I'm going to move my display flag down. All right, so I've got a few less polygons now. And the next thing I want to do is say, what do I want to do with this pumpkin? Well, to get the hollowed out section in the middle, I'm just going to duplicate this poly reduce and create a smaller version inside and subtract that. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to have one that comes down here and then one that's going to be smaller. So this will be a transform node. Great. And the other, I'm going to create the boolean over here. So boolean. And this is going to allow me to have one version, which is the poly reduced size that we see here. And we can subtract in the second input whatever the second version is over here. And so this one is going to be a smaller version. Let's say it's 0.85. And so if we wanted to see just how big that is, we can see it's quite a bit smaller, but it's also sitting, staying basically on the ground. So if we go between the two, we can see that this one here needs to come up a little bit. And what I'll do is press W on the keyboard to get wireframe and turn on my template flag of the poly reduce just so I can see, for reference, where this smaller version is sitting inside its larger parent. Then when I've got that done, I'll go over to the translate Y and just bump this up. Maybe, whoa, a lot less than that. Maybe 0.02. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And it looks like it's sitting nicely in that volume. So now all I've got to do is to go and subtract it from this one. So I'll activate my boolean and trust that that's working quite nicely. Okay, whoops, let's go back. So the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and trace a face, and then I can cut it out. So I'm going to press W to go back to my shaded view, and just off to the side here, I'm going to create a trace node. Drop that down. And this is going to allow us to put an image in, and so we can put any kind of pumpkin face or any face we want in here and select a picture. So I've got a few different faces here. I'll go for this square one first. All right, so I've loaded in my face, and in this case, I'm just going to activate it, and we can see here it is. Now, what I'd like to do is just to make sure that this isn't too finely detailed. If we turn on our points, we can see there's a lot of detail there. So I'm just going to go and resample this. I'll press tab and resample. Let's move that down a little bit. Connect it up. Try that again. Connect it up. And this is too low a level of detail. So I'm going to come down to the length here and allow smaller edge lengths. Maybe something like that is going to work for now. Okay, so I'll try that out. Next thing I want to do is to extrude this out to give it some volume. So I'll go and add a poly extrude. Drop that down, connect it up if we're not using Shift Enter. In this case, I'll just go and extrude it out. And now I just want to subtract this and see where it sits in relation to the pumpkin. So I'll turn on the display flag for the pumpkin to see where it is. And I just need to move this one, this poly traced face. So what I'm going to do is just drop down a transform node. And with this one, I'll just go and adjust it so that my display flag is active, and I just need to go and move this a little bit. All right, so perhaps bring it up a little bit. And I'm just going to scale this down to maybe 0.7. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And that's probably quite close. You know, it's a matter of rotating this around. So, I'm liking that. Bring it over. Let's go a little less. All right. And lift it up a bit. Just a bit. And see how that works. So now it's just a matter of creating a new boolean and subtracting them again. So I can even select this boolean, hold the Alt key, and click and drag to create a new version, but I'm going to give it different inputs. So I'll drag in the original pumpkin, and I'll drag in this new traced input. Move my display flag down to it, turn off these points, press Shift W. Oh, where is this wire coming from? Oh, I've got all these templates on. I'll turn those off. Alright, there we go. Templates are off, and we've got a pumpkin. Now, if we can see, we've got it nicely sculpted out on the inside using that previous boolean that we saw up here. And it's just about giving it some color. So I'll press Tab, create a color, drop that down, connect it up, move the display flag down, and let's give this a nice orange. I don't know where my color picker's gone. So what I'll do is try and do this the old school way. Let's get rid of the blue and something like so. Does this work? Ah, that's better. This will get me in the ballpark faster. Okay, there we go. We've got some orange color happening. Next thing I'm going to do is just drop down a point light, drop it inside, maybe move it up, and drop that intensity down. Something like 0.1, so it's not too overwhelming. Alright, if we want to add a little bit more polish, we can even put it in a scene with a little HDRI, so I'll create an environment light. And if we want, we can change the background by pressing D on the keyboard with our cursor over the viewport, and change it from light to dark. And yeah, that looks good. Alright, I'll select the geo, and I don't want to see the actual light gizmos, so there we go. Looking good, and yeah, that's about a wrap. So at this point, you can just go and change these faces here if you like, and it'll automatically update. So you can see the trace here. I can just load in another face, and away you go. Alright, I hope that helps, and I'll see you in another video.